Welcome back to One Take, the official New Zealand Warriors podcast.
Well done.
Bit of a different look today. Jacko, he's behind the scenes, producer.
Producer Jacko. I'm feeling good though, but when you get the big cheese in town, sometimes you gotta know your place and sit off camera.
There we go. Straight away, heck of a segue. Lucky enough to be joined by the owner, the big dog, Mark Robinson, aka Robbo. Welcome. Cheers for jumping on.
Thanks for inviting me.
I got to say, this has been a long time in the works because, of course, I know you're away from the club as well. A couple of times over a few beers, you said you'd jump on the potty, but finally got it done. So it's pretty cool as a fan, though, to be able to talk to the owner of the club. So really appreciate it.
I appreciate it.
And let's start with how you are. That's how we like to kick things off usually. There's a bit going on for you back in New Zealand. How's things?
Yeah, that's really good. I'm back. It's been great to have my grandson's first birthday. And also to watch the Warriors win on the weekend. And, it's a different field over here now. And I'm really excited. I think that, they're just going to see the start of what we're going to become.
For sure. And I was going to ask, game day for you, what's that like? Because as a fan, I get nervous, but can't imagine the emotional roller coaster you go through. Talk us through a bit about that.
Yeah, it sort of starts in the morning, when I'm eating breakfast and stuff, mucking around with my friends and start talking. And then when I get to the ground, I get a bit quieter and then I start pacing around a bit. And then when the game starts, it's sort of go in my own little box and hide off over there and just sort of watch the game really. And then me and Cameron sort of get together halfway through or, when we've done all our, official things in the box. And then we sort of sneak off and go and watch the game on our own, you know. So, and then, afterwards it's, either, doesn't matter afterwards. You're still relieved the game's over, really, even if it's a win or a loss, but the win's far better.
Bloody good. Well, let's go back a little bit, I guess, about your upbringing, because you're brought up in a rugby league family. So for those that don't know, your father's had a massive impact in kind of the history of the game here. Could you run us through a bit about your old man?
Yeah, just quickly, when I was young, I was allowed to play rugby league until I was 12, but my dad got heavily involved with the New Zealand Rugby League in 79 when they signed a 5-year deal. And how it all happened was my father went away as a manager of the Kiwi side. Yeah. And the Kiwis were staying in motels and the Aussies were staying in hotels. So my dad come back after being from the north of England. We're not going to win anything unless we're on the same level. So he decided to sponsor the Kiwis on a 5-year deal so they could have the same conditions that the Aussies had back in those days. And I think it worked because in the beginning of the 80s, 81, 82, 83, 84, we were quite dominant over the Australian team. And then I just got involved, played league for 20, and then got dragged back in by Stacey Jones and Arwen to help point Chev. And so we did that for 5 or 6 years, and then I got dragged into buying the Warriors.
On point, Chev, because you're being a bit humble about it, but you got involved with the club and kind of turned them into a bit of a powerhouse in Auckland and New Zealand Rugby League. So how did that kind of come about? Talk to us a bit about your success with them.
Well, it's you go back to your club and, and all those sort of things need a bit of money and getting and culture change. And I think that we changed the culture and we had players coming to play for us. You had to pay them money, but we weren't paying overs. And then we got people like David Latu and Warangi and Jones and that played a couple of games. And then we just started building and people wanted to come to the club because we had a good social side of the club afterwards. And they come down to Point Chev and then people just wanted to come. And then we were getting top players from all the clubs coming to be a part of the family and ended up winning 5 Fox Memorials, and when we took over, it was the bottom of the 3rd division.
That must have been a pretty proud moment for you. You obviously played for the club to see it, achieving those feats now.
Yeah, I think it's a team, proud for all of us, James and Grant and all the people that now work at the Warriors. I brought people in from Point Chev that work at the Warriors now, which I think is valuable for the culture and to help this club now too.
You mentioned you got dragged into the Warriors, and you've said before on numerous occasions you never had intentions of owning the club, but I guess how did that conversation even come about?
Well, it was just, Rob Crude actually come in and harassed me for 6 weeks, and I said, I'm not buying a football club. And then he finally said, oh, well, blah, 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 the percentage. And I said, only if I've got 50% say, otherwise I'm not interested. And then they finally agreed to it, which was stupid on their behalf. But and then I ended up with paying a lot less, 50%, and having 50% say. So once we started, they were wanting to not put any money and didn't want to develop it. They just wanted to, carve, streamline it, which is already streamlined. And then so I said, look, I can't do this. I'm out, or you buy me out. And at the time, I was hoping they were going to buy me out, to be fair, because it was like, what am I doing? And then all of a sudden, I ended up with it. So, but now it's like the best thing ever.
Yeah, that's
I've
unreal.
got something that I can help New Zealand be proud of one day, and that's what's more important. It's making the New Zealanders proud, not myself or my family. It's for New Zealand. I'm doing it for New Zealand.
And it's fair to say, as soon as you took over, you were hit with some pretty interesting circumstances, the relocation of the club. And I think guys like Cam and Stacey Jones have said the club wouldn't be around today if it wasn't for you. How hard was that period? And how much did you kind of draw back on your business leadership as well? Because you're running a company through a global pandemic as well.
Always more difficult than it was for me, to be fair. But I think we've learned a lot from it. And, we've lost a lot from it. It's probably a more important thing, is because we've lost our junior teams, which we're rebuilding. And we lost the family, we lost people, we lost family life, so, and they become one, and like being in a dormitory at one point, which wasn't fair. But I think we've all learned from it. And I think the good thing about it is that there's players now wanting to come back to New Zealand and live in New Zealand because, they miss their family so much because of it. And I think it's going to benefit us in the future.
For sure. Homecoming game. Oh, Jacko?
No, sorry, I just want to jump off the back of that, Robbo, because you've spoke a lot about throughout this, you keep sort of referencing culture. And I think my biggest thing, I don't know about Benny and Logs here, but when I came here, it was noticeable that there was a culture shift. And whether you're doing that deliberately or it's kind of just happening because it's part of you as a person, but I suppose the business parallels between what you've done and are doing at Ortex, and then you come at the Warriors, and like you said, it sort of happened begrudgingly, but the culture that you're kind of building here, is that a conscious thing you're doing, or is that more just subconscious because of the bloke you are and the people you keep around you, or a bit of both maybe?
Well, I think that, in life, no one's better than anyone else, and it doesn't matter how much money you got, or what you have or what you haven't got. It's at the end of the day, we're all fucking human beings, and we all can help each other regardless of what level we're on. And I've never tolerated people talking down to people in my business, and even outside of my business. When people bullied people, I was the first one over there to tell them to shut up, and if they didn't, I'd whack them, It's just the way it was. I mean, you can't do that. I don't like that, because I was bullied when I was young. So when I got old enough to look after myself and learn how to fight properly, Kenny Rainsfield, and my best mate, Olympic wrestler, will
shout out Kenny.
better picture than that, But, but it's, now that's not tolerable to fight people. So, we've got to change the way people think, and we've got to all help each other and look after each other, and that's really important. And if you can get that into your club like we have it in our company, mate, you're only going to get better and better and grow and grow.
I think that's it, Robbo, because I know you don't like getting a rap, but it does feel like when you come in here that you are just one of us, and we feel like we can go knock on Cameron's door and grab a yarn. And I don't know whether that's always been the case here, but certainly you can kind of definitely feel a noticeable cultural shift. And I think it's a testament to not only yourself, but obviously, like you said, the people that you bring around you.
And I think Cameron gets it,
Yeah, he does.
He's Lebanese in Australia. No, he would have copped a fair bit of shit when he was younger, like a lot of Lebanese, and that culture did in Australia. And I think Cameron, he gets it, and we all get it, and the coaches get it, and the management get it, and we all get it. I was in the just down the road, St. Luke's, trying to find some clothes that I've left back in New Zealand, and I was having a Subway, and I met these island boys that were standing there all feeding, and they recognised me, so I went over and ate my lunch with them, had a yarn with them, you know.
Imagine having Subway with the Warriors owner at Sylvia Park.
Yeah, pretty buzzy, eh? Didn't think that when he woke up this morning.
He thinks it's normal, but it's like it is a different thing for the owner of a footy club to be, you know what I mean?
And even like just being around rugby circles, like it's completely like different environment there in terms of like you wouldn't get this access to the owner of a club. So it's pretty crazy. You mentioned like culture and family vibe. And for me, like a great example of that was the homecoming game last year. Packed stands, everyone's so passionate in the crowd. But I always remember pre-kickoff, I saw you walking around the field just kind of soaking it all in. Can you talk to us a bit about your feelings on that day and how special that was for you just to see everyone back at Mount Smart?
Mate, you know, it was probably one of the proudest days since I've owned the club. Number one for the fans. I mean, you know, having the boys back there, and my favourite part, which I insisted on, is the tunnel, and them running out of the tunnel was just amazing, and everyone's cheering, and you know, and then the boys to put on a show like they put on and walk away with a win. I mean, there was so many people left that place happy. I mean, you can't replace that stuff.
No.
And that's what makes me happy is when people are walking away, you know, cheering.
Yeah. I don't know about you, Jacko, but I feel like that was like an iconic moment in New Zealand sport.
Yeah, I think, again, it's one of those times, Robbo, where like at the end of the day, and I've heard you say it publicly before, but you certainly say it privately, you just want to start creating memories as well for people, and you want to remember that time you went to Mount Smart and they ran out of the tunnel and it was packed, and you know, of course it's amazing that they got the win, but creating memories like that beyond just what the boys can control on the field, I think is probably part of the legacy that, again, whether it by subconsciously or consciously, that you're kind of leaving here, mate.
But I think, you know, that can be put in history the same as 1995 when they played their first game there. If you look at the both scenarios, they are exactly the same, you know, moments, which are, you know, they're never going to ever go away, those two moments.
No, agreed. It was like the hottest ticket in town. Everyone wanted a piece of it. And then for the remaining home games, it was sold out as well. And it kind of feels like that same vibe stuck around. I know people are really excited for this weekend. So
so number 3 is going to be the NRL title, and then we've got all 3.
There we go.
Mate.
Here we go. You love to hear it. Well, talking about the now, and I think fans are pretty excited, obviously, after the weekend and the start to the season. But I wanted to touch on Andrew Webster, a guy that's in the headlines a lot at the moment. You obviously had the pleasure of getting to know him and bringing him to the club. What was it about Webby that kind of made you think he's the guy to take us forward to the future?
Oh, you know, you have to really get to know meet Webby, but Webby's emotional guy, you know, like he's really happy, and you know, you can see him, but he looks emotional and he looks happy and then he looks like that, but he's actually exactly the same. Like he has mannerisms, and mate, the way he talks to the boys, the way he never singles any player out. He talks to them as a group. They all know who they are. They're welcome to go to his office, you know, the coaches area. They can sit down and talk to the coaches. They can go through stuff. And I think that's just comes back to the culture thing, and which he's strong on, is that, you know, there's no good picking someone in a team and yelling at them in the changing room, and I think that's the biggest thing for our club, because, you know, especially with the Pacific Island boys and the culture that we have in our club, you know, they're not used to that, you know, being talked down to in front of people, and I think that's why the team's getting better and stronger, because they're all talking to each other, and the coaches are just doing their job and making sure that they stick to the plan. And
yeah, one example of that, Jacko, we were lucky enough to be in the sheds after the game down in Wellington, and I don't know Webby personally, but one thing I took away from it in his after-game speech, singled out Tom Ali, who I think maybe only played 9 or 10 minutes on the field, but said he did the exact job that he asked him to do. Like, as a player, perhaps you're not happy that you only got 10 minutes, but to then be shouted out in front of the whole team, that's got to be a huge lift.
If you want to circle back to kind of what Robbo spoke about at the top of this episode as well, when he said, his approach is no one's more important than anyone else. Well, Webby goes and addresses the group after an amazing round one game where Tohu's made 500,000 tackles and Sean put on a clinic, and he goes, I want to make a special mention to Tom, who did exactly what was told of him. And that's the same thing. Robbo mentions, he comes into the Warriors and no one's above anyone else. And I think that's what you can take away from Webby.
Yeah, and the one thing I love about him when he does win, that smirk on his face is gold. That little he's just as happy as anyone else,
He goes through the relief,
mate,
and
it's
then
he's just got that little grin on the side going on, and that's just great.
He had it in the box over the weekend too. It was 79.99 minutes of stress, and then just a little smirk. Smirk, have a beer, reset, go again.
With him and Tohu after the game was a beauty.
Yeah, well, speaking of Tohu, 200th game as a captain, like how proud does he make you watching on as the owner?
Well, you got to. That's why he's the captain. That's why Tohu is Tohu. He's never going to let you down. And if you talk to the coaches, his very best game and his worst game, there's just so much. There's just so small a gap that us as fans wouldn't know if he had a good game or a bad game. The only way you'd know is if you looked at the stats. But as a player, the gap between them having a good game and a bad game is so small that you'd never tell.
Tohu, on that, Benny, Tohu's, you'd probably say as a pure footy fan, his best asset is his ball playing and his ability with the footy. He currently leads the NRL in tackles after 3 rounds.
I think he's made like 150 and missed 3. Like, you've seen me play rugby, mine would be flipped on the head. 3 made 150 missed. But
your standoffs were never taught to tackle.
Mate, Mum just said, bring your jersey home clean so she doesn't have to wash it, and I was good at doing that. Never got into the tough stuff. But
the best one was Grant Fox one time, and it was muddy at Eden Park, and I was watching on TV, and everyone, you couldn't even see what colour they were, and he had a couple of sprinkles up the back of his shirt
Socks.
and been running with a number 10 on it.
Hey, you need the first 5. It's not just the NRL side achieving success, SG Ball, and the Cup side's going really well as well. Yeah. Obviously, with your involvement with kind of grassroots footy, was bringing those teams back into the club really important to you? Because we need those pathways, right?
Yeah, otherwise we're going to lose players to Australia, and, it's really important. And that's what we lost when we were in Australia, we lost that, and we're relying on other clubs like the Dolphins, which I'm grateful of at the time. We've got a new team now, but they helped us when we were there with players and stuff. But we've got to build again. We've got 2 more teams coming in next year, being in the NRL, so we're going to have 5 teams next year. So when they start at 16, they can go all the way through to the top side. So there's a proper pathway. And then I think in 2025 it's the women's.
Yeah.
So we've got a big schedule on. But one of the big problems you have to, that people don't realise, is we're going to find places for these guys to train. We've got to find another gym, because there's just not enough room here anymore for us to have 6 teams.
Yeah.
That was gonna be my question. Sorry, Benny. Robbo, like the actual, when you say, it's amazing, we got new teams coming into the comp and all that, and it sounds great for fans, but what are the kind of the logistical side of that? What goes into putting a Harold Matts into the comp, for example? Like, without getting too
as a
technical.
fan, you can be like, we need these teams, and like people say it, but
I've
I
been
don't think
saying it for
people
years, but
realise the work that goes into it. Like,
Yeah.
these are Australian competitions. So.
Yeah.
We have to find a club or a facility where we can put a gym in. We can have some changing rooms. We got fields, because we can't do it here. We struggle as it is. And then when you talk about another 2-3 teams, we need to get a proper place for the 16s and the 18s, is it 19s, I think, and then the 21s, and then the top side, the reserves top side.
Is that part of the long-term plan, Robbo? Something like that?
Yeah, we need to get somewhere, even if it's an existing league club that we can do a partnership with that's got, a hall where we can put gym equipment in and do it properly, and then it's on the grounds and
adequate facilities.
Yeah, that we can. We'll put the gyms in, and then we'll rent it off them, and and bring a bit to their club.
Yeah,
probably someone around here. I don't know. Maybe Otahu, Ellerslie,
Northcote.
Get out to Newland Stags, mate. Come on.
Too far.
Hey. Well, you mentioned earlier championships, so I just wanted to ask your kind of legacy, what you're hoping to achieve over the next couple of years as a club, because talking to you outside of this, it always gets the old hairs on the arm raised every time you talk about the club. You've had me ready to run through a brick wall numerous times. So, cut us a bit of a highlight here. Tell the fans what you're hoping to achieve at the Wars over the next couple of years.
Well, I think after this year, I think we'll prove that we're a far better team. Next year, with some salary cap money that's come available, I think we'll be close to the top 6, top 4. And I'd hope, and I'm confident that we'll give it a good run in 25.
There we go. Woo! Well, I reckon this year alone, it's been impressive already. As a fan, it's already exciting to see. So
we get strong in the top 8 this year. You'll easily do the 6 to top 6, maybe top 4, and then it's game on.
Fire up, Jacko. Fire up.
Hey, it all starts this Sunday, Robbo. We are back in Mount Smart, bro. Before we get you out here, I did want to talk to you about this weekend specifically, mate. Getting people down to Mount Smart, but beyond that, having all 3 games here. I know it's probably a day you're looking forward to on Sunday.
Yeah, I think it's a great day for Auckland, New Zealand, Auckland. And I think that everyone should turn up, and I think it's really important for the club and for the community and for what we're trying to achieve. Is the more people turn up and the more faith we have in the public, the better we're going to get quicker. And I hope you'll turn up and enjoy the ride, and if I'm around, just say hello. I'd like to meet you.
He'll be down there having Subway at the
everyone's heading down to the Subway now, hoping to have a conversation. That's unreal. Just wanted to say, Robbo, thanks for the chat, and I think on behalf of all fans, myself included, love what you've done with the club, love the direction we're going. So grateful to have a guy that's so passionate about the club and rugby league at the helm. So love your work, mate, and excited for that championship parade in the next couple of years.
Thanks, Searley and boys, for the opportunity, and go the fucking Warriors.
Up the Wars. Thanks, Robert.